Welcome back into another episode of Every Day We're Covering. Chris Parks, SJ Munoz with you once again. The bowl season is hot and heavy, SJ, and we've had some interesting games here these last couple of days.
Yeah, it's getting kind of wacky what we maybe expected at the start of the bowl season, getting a little bit more entertaining. I won't say that many more close games, but there's been a lot more interest, especially last night. You had the late one, especially kind of some interesting outcomes, and we saw that number really fluctuate there later in the day.
Yeah, and that's another thing I guess we'll touch on here throughout the show is how numbers can change. Obviously, can vary from book to book depending on where you're at, and then also a little bit closer to game time, things can get interesting sometimes, and we've seen that with a number of games so far here in the bowl season. And yeah, we're finally getting some entertaining and fun contests to sit down and watch too. So that's always good as well. As we get rolling here and often going with the kind of this is our last round, I guess, of big games as we lead up to. We'll have, of course, one more with the national championship after we decide the semifinals, but we'll include the semifinal picks here in this show. So kind of getting towards the tail end here of bowl season, unfortunately, but we're going to enjoy these days.
And that's a single tear drops down your face. No, we'll have plenty more to play. And of course, what the hell? We'll get some NFL going, college basketball. We aren't going anywhere, but definitely between us, the college football is kind of, the prime time, that's kind of what we live for. So it is kind of, it goes by quick. It seems like you just get into it in August and the next thing you know, it's, the holiday season and it's over. But we're going to try to make some more money here in the next week or so. Let's see what we got for you this week.
Yeah, I mean, we both love sports, so there's no lack of things usually year-round to find and be entertained by. But when it comes to especially the wagering side of it, I think college football is definitely, we agree, where it's at. So that is going to be sad to see go. But otherwise, we'll find some things to have some fun with for sure. Of course, we always got to keep lubricated while we're doing that as well. And I went right back to the well again, unfortunately, so I'm not going to be entertaining and exciting for folks because I've already mentioned this one, but I still had a few more of those Cranberry Tank 7s sitting in the fridge, so I busted one out here again to enjoy tonight. I guess it's fitting for the end of bowl season, but how about yourself?
Yeah, well, we're both college football nuts, kind of along the same lines. I went back to the well as well, so we're kind of thinking alike here in both areas. A little bit more entertaining holiday still, and anytime there's some guests in town, I got to treat them right. So I had to hit my spot Jack Stack. That's literally the only time I do barbecue, and it's everywhere, of course, in Kansas City. But when someone's in town visiting, it's honestly like the only time I can get it any day, obviously. So maybe that's why I don't. But I went ahead and maybe had a little bit bigger dinner than usual. So I'm taking it easy, but going with one of the old reliables, a Yingling. I did the light one. Can't go wrong with the Yingling. So I'm going to be careful with my 99 calorie drink here. Only 3.2 grams of carbs as well. So we're making up for that big dinner.
All right, yeah, you gotta pinch them sometimes where you can. We all make sacrifices, right?
And we'd rather eat our calories than drink them. So we're willing to make that trade off.
All right, so some awesome barbecue ready to fire up and fuel this podcast here for you. We, of course, are going to touch on how we did last time around, and I guess I should just maybe go ahead and do that. We don't have a whole lot of games to tell you about because actually, as we're recording, we still have a few that we talked about last time that are being played, so not quite finished up with our last slate, but we'll tell you how we did so far that we know about. And that would start off with the game for good old Bowling Green and the Quick Lane Bowl, that good old sicko game out there in Detroit. And did not go well, though, here for Bowling Green. Minnesota seemed to get the ground game going and had some young players play well and really controlled the ground and the clock, and they won 30-24. So that was unfortunately a loser there for us. I don't know about you, SJ, but I was a little bit surprised that Minnesota had that kind of offense in them.
Yeah, we talked about over and over, not to beat the dead horse, but the motivation. I didn't think it would be there for them. It obviously was. I do think Bowling Green showed up to play as well, and their fans, they had a good showing as well. They took over that stadium. I mean, there's not a lot of reason to go to Detroit. They showed up. So credit to them. At the same time, yeah, Minnesota looked like the quarterback been playing all season. Of course, that was a big storyline, and had to get as many shots as they could of his fiance there. It was almost like a Brent Musburger flashback. I was kind of getting a little, nauseous listening to them talk about that, but yeah, they played well. It was still a good game. I mean, Bowling Green had a chance there even at the very end, just couldn't get that, late onside kick or get the ball back in the last 2 minutes. But it was a good game and obviously one of the more competitive games that we've seen, especially these first, week and a half or so of bowls.
Yeah, we moved on from there to the Serve Pro First Responder Bowl, and it was Texas State pulling away from Rice. Was a back and forth game early on, but once it got into the second half, it's when Texas State really put it away. 45-21 was the final, and they had a nice performance there from both their quarterback and their running back. Kind of got a good mix of things going on. Their defense made a few plays as well to get some turnovers, and they get the win. So that was a winner for me. You were taking flyer on Rice in that one, so Owls didn't come through for you.
Got cooked. Rice got cooked, man. That's all we can say.
Mr. McCaffrey couldn't do it all by himself. He was trying, but didn't work out. And then we went on to the next contest in the evening session, and it was a fun game, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl down there at Chase Field. And the Kansas Jayhawks had a big lead, let it get away, and then were able to seal it at the end in the fourth quarter. 49-36, they beat UNLV. And this is one where it varies a little bit here because when we talked to you on the podcast, we had the number at 13, which would have been a push. Now, I know when you got to play it, you got that little hook, and that turned out to be just what you needed there.
Yeah, usually try to avoid those hooks, but even when we talked about it, I thought 13 was too big and they're giving me another half point. Of course, I'm going to play that if I already thought 13 was too much. But yeah, it made it interesting. And I know I was sweating a little bit there when the Rebels kept going for the 2-point try. I'm like, can you please just kick that? I mean, of course, they're not looking at it like I'm looking at it. So, of course, as strategy wise, you would go for 2 in those situations. But as far as, someone with some money on the line, we don't like to see that. You say, get the points and get that lead, narrow it down because it looked like I don't know the way they were getting back and forth and kind of chippy at the end of the game. I thought Kansas might punch it in just to stick it up, stick it up their arse there because there it was. What did they have? 7 or 8 personal foul penalties at least. Kansas did like it was. It was kind of an ugly affair. Not at least I haven't seen them too much, but what I've seen of Kansas, they haven't really played that way this season. So I don't know if just the lead up to it, if the refs were calling it closer, what it was. It just seemed like they were really kind of, there's a little bit of bad blood there. And I know these teams match up again next year. So that could be, maybe a storyline to watch as we head into early next season.
Yeah, and even to make it even much more different, I played it right before the game, and the number then had gone down all the way to 8. So, that showed, and who knows, maybe something happened, somebody knew something, I don't know. It seemed like most of the players were out there, but somebody knew something.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was curious as well as somebody knows somebody got sick, maybe somebody got suspended because that's not going to come out until right before game time, of course. So that's where I was thinking, and I mean, I was feeling pretty good when I saw that number dropping like that, and then the game happened, and that almost got away from us, but we ended up both doing okay there.
Yeah, luckily the game had quite a few big plays, and that's what made it entertaining to watch. Were some really big plays for both teams, both ways. Otherwise, yeah, it was kind of sloppy and choppy because there were so many penalties, and it wasn't one of those games either where you could really blame the officials because you look back on most of them, it's like, yeah, it really was a penalty, it was a hold, that was a personal foul. You can't, grab the guy's face mask or you can't take a swing at him. Those kinds of things kept happening. I'm kind of curious how it's possible that UNLV and Kansas seem to have some kind of beef with each other when they're halfway across the country.
Rivalry. Maybe it's like old basketball, like the early '90s. They used to have some crazy Maui Invitational games or whatever. Who knows? Like there seems like there's something there though, because that fire got lit quick and it carried through the whole game.
Yeah, maybe Self made a call before the game. Hey, get back to that Tark guy for me. Get those those rebels.
Yeah, I didn't see anybody chewing on towels, but that's about the only thing missing.
So that's what we had there. We do have one to tell you about here today as we record. The Tulane Green Wave did not perform as we thought they would in the Military Bowl. 41-20. Virginia Tech got the victory there. We were both looking for Tulane. You thought they might even jump up and pull off the win. Well, it turned out not having that quarterback back there was a big deal for them. And Virginia Tech just absolutely pounded the rock. They ran the ball like crazy. I think they said there was 51 rushes in the game there for the Hokies. And yeah, they sometimes you get the ground game going. There's nothing another team can do about it.
Yeah, we talked about Bowling Green kind of taking over that stadium. Virginia Tech did the same thing as well. It was definitely couldn't have hurt any. And then it was another game where that weather was just god awful. I can't imagine playing in that, but they overcame and did what they had to do. But I mean, I understand they're missing the quarterback, but that was a little bit disappointing the performance by Tulane. But that's part of bowl season. You just don't know what you're gonna get.
Yep. And then the other one I can tell you about, I'm not John Denver, so I won't warm
Yeah.
up the vocal cords too much here for you. But those old country roads took us all home as the West Virginia Mountaineers pulled away in the second half, 30-10, the final over North Carolina. I kind of had a feeling the motivation was going to be there. Now it was a close game; it was only a 7 point game at halftime, but Mountaineers took advantage in the second half, put a couple more scores up, and make it a little bit more of a beating. And heck of a season though for West Virginia. They're going to be pretty proud, I'm sure, about that victory and bouncing back from kind of the season they had the year before.
I talked about that. The quarterback fiance deal, and that was almost as nauseating. The only thing that did one better was all the Mayo talk. I understand. Like I know, like people that like it, people that don't. Obviously, a person that doesn't. But I mean, you got people, chugging it in the crowd. I mean, when they did the little, Gatorade type shower with mayo, whatever you want to call it. The silent reporter has a couple of French fries in his hand. Takes a scoop off the coach's sleeve and friggin' downs the fries. I'm like, dude, you're just doing too much. Like, I'm pretty sure it was mustard, but in the announcer's booth, puts a dab of mustard on a Krispy Kreme donut and gobbles it down. I'm like, something ain't right with wherever this game's at. These people need to be locked up. Like, hey, I don't understand all that. Like, this is disgusting. Like, I feel like I got pretty. I'm not like a weak stomach type person that pukes over everything. But I was like, man, this is some gross shit right here.
Yeah, going way too far with the condiments here. You know, I guess I don't know that I'm that experienced with having any of the Duke's mayo. I'm kind of a Hellman's man
No,
myself, so I can't speak to the quality. I don't know.
well, I mean, I think it must be like a regional thing because before the bowl, this got the sponsorship. I never even heard of Duke's Mayo.
That's true. Yeah, maybe it's more southern thing. Who knows? East Coast kind of deal. But yeah, so the Mayo Bath went to good old Neil Brown instead of Mac Brown. So one Brown over the other
I
this
might
time.
decline that. I mean, if that's an option, I know you're happy that you went. I'd probably just decline it and
I
be like,
think the
thanks,
deal
but
is
no
though.
thanks. Like,
I think the deal is though they don't give them like $25,000 in some charity money or something if they don't do the Mayo Bath. So it's like they got to do it. I mean,
yeah.
come on.
Man, they got the money. I'd take that. You can write it off
That's true.
to
He could pay
charitable
for it.
donation. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, then there's a couple left, but we don't know results yet, so we won't go there until the next show to recap those. But that's how it went. One thing I wanted to touch on here before we dive into our other picks here, real quick. I've heard some talk this week. Of course, one of the games that we'll touch on includes the Florida State Seminoles, who got left out of the college football playoff. And there's been some kind of scattering talk this week. Do they pull the Central Florida card if they up and beat Georgia here in this game and stay undefeated and claim the national championship? Do you think that's a rightful claim?
I mean, they wouldn't be the first team to do so. Obviously, I mean, you look at A&M Stadium, and that's literally everything that's adorning the walls is a claimed national title. Obviously, that was a different time, different era type of thing. Of course, just joking. Of course, at the same time, I mean, if there's ever a case too, you could maybe see a little. Obviously, it's no one's gonna think you're the champion. You're not. If you're not in the playoff, you're not the champion. Unfortunately, we talked about it. We think they got screwed, but that's the reality of the situation. The how the system is at this point. I don't blame them if they want to make a big deal about it. Whatever. I've seen some legislative action and things of that sort. Some stuff to that sort, and do what you got to do. I say the more vocal you are about it is probably the best thing you can do at this situation because that's all you can really do and just keep bringing attention to it and keeping your name out there. First things first, though, you got to go out and win that game, and that's not going to be an easy task. So
Well, yeah.
how about we get the W first, and then
Pump the
then
brakes.
then go ahead and do whatever you want to do because that's going to come back real quick if Georgia freaking mollywops you. It's going to be no big it's gonna you're going to look real stupid at that point because
Yeah,
even though a lot of people made fun of Central Florida, at least you didn't hear anything about it until after the fact.
that's true. Very true. All right, so let's dive into it here. We go to Friday, December the 29th will be our first game of picks here to look at. And we start off with the Gator Bowl in good old Jacksonville, Florida. And it is Clemson laying 4 against Kentucky. This is an 11 o'clock kick. 44.5 is the number here on this one. And I think, the way that Clemson ended the season obviously was on a very positive note. Kentucky was very disappointing up until that early game they had against Georgia when everybody's hyping that they're going to give them a run, and then they kind of got rolled in that game and just they never got back on track after that again to be a kind of serious like big time game type of team. Clemson's going to have some opt outs here in this game. That's going to hurt them. But still being at only 4, I think they're going to take care of business. I'm going to go with the Tigers here to cover that number.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Dabo, we kind of gave him a hard time about some of the rants he was going on, but something clicked there at the end of the year. Like, made a good run, looked pretty strong there. Had they played at the end of the beginning of the season like they did at the end, they could be in a much different situation. At the least, probably a New Year's Day bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the playoff was still a long shot, but they'd be in a much better situation. So I'm with you on this one. I think they can cover that 4 points fairly easily, and I don't. I don't think this might not be very close of a game. Maybe a double digit win, but I'll just stick with the 4. I'm not gonna mess with that number too much there.
All right, so we're both
All
going
right.
with Clemson, first one there.
Yeah, let's go on to beautiful city of El Paso. We got the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl here. One of your favorite squads, maybe not. Notre Dame's taking on Oregon State here.
Not.
I'm with you on that, so don't worry, you're not the only one. We're looking at Notre Dame's actually 6.5 point favorite. That's the number, the spread I'm seeing on the book I'm looking at, and then over under 41.5. What do you like on that one, CP?
Both teams don't have quarterbacks, so that is a little bit of a change. I just think that the likelihood of a team to be able to like survive some of that portal mess is probably going to go in the favor of a bigger time program like Notre Dame. Plus, their coaching staff still intact as well. There's changes at coach there for Oregon State, so it's a guy from inside, so it's not as big a deal, but still, they've got some rumblings there. I'm going to go ahead and say that the Irish get it done. I think they'll probably win by 10 plus in this game, so I'm going to go with Notre Dame.
I promise this my all bias aside because, like I mentioned, I don't care for this school, but I don't. I think they've just been a little bit more tested. Pac-12 for pound, they might have been at least at the top of it, one of the best conferences in the country this year. Top 4 to top 5. And give anybody a run for their money. I think I understand that the changes, the players missing the coaching that's going to hurt, going to be a task. It's going to be a challenge. But I still think Oregon State can get it done. I just think they're a more of a proven team over the long run. And I'm actually going to take money line just because of the points that are I'm getting about plus 200. So I'm going to try to make some money with that, and I think they can pull up the upset there at the Sun Bowl.
All right, yeah, beautiful El Paso, Texas. And of course, Tony the Tiger. I mean,
Yeah, when you think of El
great.
Paso, of course you think of Tony the Tiger, right? Go
Exactly.
hand in hand.
One and the same. I did hear from some people that were talking about bowl games too that the Sun Bowl has kind of been one of those that actually has traditionally been like a proper bowl game. Like it's been run the way it's supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be run. There's not a lot of scandal behind the Sun Bowl. It actually is very much supported by the town. It's one of those that actually does highlight the area very, very well because you get some beautiful sunsets out there on West Texas, or yeah, West Texas. So
Yeah.
that'll
Well,
be
it
fun.
is an amazing setting, the stadium itself. Like they do have a nice, just the aerial shots and
Hmm.
everything. It's pretty. It's a pretty cool setup as far as that goes. And I mean, why not? Let's could be worse places to be this time of year, I suppose.
That's true.
We're looking at blizzards and 20-degree weather in most places. So
Exactly. We'll move on later in the day then at 2:30, and this is one of my squad involved, the
yeah.
Liberty Bowl down in Memphis, Tennessee. Actually, a bowl rematch here from a handful of years ago. Iowa State taking on the home team in the Memphis Tigers. I have it as Iowa State laying 10.5 right now is the number that I'm seeing. The
Mhm.
point total 57.5. What are you thinking, SJ?
Yeah, that's saw that got the same number at least with my outlet, and it's a little bit on the beefy side. I
It
think
is.
definitely think your boys can get it done, but like I said before, usually I like to stay away from the hooks, and it's like something's cooking there. So I think the play for me is gonna be the total. I think that's a better way to go. And 57 and a half. I think there's going to be a shootout. Like I said, would be kind of surprised honestly if Memphis pulled it out. But I think they could maybe cover the number, maybe. But I do think the overs is almost that's a no brainer. I think it's going to be a high scoring game.
Yeah, I agree with you on that front. I saw a note that 8 of the games that Memphis played this year, they gave up 6+ yards per play in those contests. So they're definitely a porous defense, so to speak, throughout the season. Because of that, not that I always trust my clones in bowl games because they usually like to make it interesting, but this is one of those games where I do feel like they have the advantage, and they came into it with such great confidence. They played so well at the end of the year in that win over K State. I think that they've got some mojo on their side with the young guys, and they'll all pretty much be playing. I don't. There's maybe one question mark at corner with TJ Tampa if he's going to sit out or not, but everybody else will be in the game. So I'm going to give them a chance to cover that 10.5. And I'm with you. I think I would probably like to play the over as well at the same time. So that's definitely one to look at, maybe on multiple fronts.
This was probably one of the more interesting matchups, at least on paper, when we saw, we kind of did our little impromptu top five games, and that was definitely one of my picks going to the Cotton Bowl, Goodyear Cotton Bowl these days. Missouri and Ohio State. Right now, it looks like Ohio State's getting 3 points. Totals at 49. What are you thinking here? What are you leaning?
Well, it just depends on if that Goodyear blimp is spying for the Buckeyes in this one or not. We had some question about that
Hey,
earlier in the season.
you got to check who's buying those tickets and where those alumni seats are handed out.
Any Michigan alum attendance? Um, this is odd because I really hate to go this way just because of the name on the helmet and the way they were hyped up throughout the year, but Missouri is going to be jacked to play in this game. They haven't played in a
Mm.
goal game this big in forever, almost 50 years. I think last time they really had a matchup like this. Cody Schrader has been phenomenal on the ground for them. Their offense puts up points. And Ohio State has shown that they always don't do that very well. And of course, they don't have their quarterback either. So there's a question mark on that front. Maserati's only as good as a guy that can throw the ball to him. So I'm going to go
You need
Mizzou.
that gas to get going. You can't get the top speed without the gas.
He ain't got that premium fuel this week. Uh, accidentally put in the unleaded. I'm going Mizzou. I think they get it. I'll go ahead and take the 3 if they're going to give them to me, but I think Missouri probably wins outright, anyways.
Yeah, this is a tough one to call. Just a lot of it is who's going to be playing, especially in the higher profile teams. Of course, every game anymore somebody's not playing or not playing, but with these teams, it seems you're getting number one draft picks. So that's a or first second round draft picks. That's quite a bit of talent losing compared to maybe a backup that's decided to transfer in some of these other schools. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I was a little bit, your mind, you think Ohio State a no brainer, but makes you, for what you kind of described there, made me a little bit leery. So honestly, the only thing that I was comfortable playing, I'm going to get that total. I think it's going to be overs. Again, I think it's going to be a back and forth thing. I could see either team winning. I know Missouri had a couple of injuries there on defense as well, just a couple of starters that are going to be missing. So that maybe that can balance out the Ohio State players that this opt out or aren't playing. So that's there's just a little bit more of uncertainty looking closer at the game. Is why I'm looking at that number instead of the spread. So I'll take the over 49 in that one.
All right, flip the calendar to the next day on December 30th, Saturday, and we start with the Peach Bowl out in Atlanta, Georgia. They're at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, 11 o'clock kickoff, and this is an SEC Big Ten contest. Ole Miss taking on Penn State. Penn State, I have them as a 4.5 point favorite right now. The number at 48.5. SJ, what are we thinking here in this one?
I know they're 10, 11, right, right by each other in the rankings, but I think Penn State wins this game easily. Honestly, like I don't see a lot of resistance there. I was honestly looking. I was kind of surprised that I saw Ole Miss, towards the end of the year where they were ranked. Kind of went back and looked at their record. They earned their ranking. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't. I don't remember a lot of big moments or splashy things coming from that program this season to get that high of a ranking. But I just think Penn State's a better team. Is the best way to put it. I know they have a little some assistant coaching moved on and that things of that sort, but I think they're the better team and they'll cover that spread easily. I think a touchdown or touchdown plus Penn State win.
I agree with you there. I think the play that I was kind of more looking at here in this game, though, was probably to go with the under here in this game. I know the number's not
Okay.
that high at 48.5, but Penn State not necessarily known as a juggernaut offensively. They've struggled in some games to put big numbers up and get consistent offense. And Ole Miss doesn't have a great defense, but probably do enough to keep them a little bit in check just because Penn State struggles. And then on the other side, I think Penn State's defense is going to really hold Ole Miss in check. So I think that's going to keep this a pretty low scoring affair, that typical Big Ten style that you expect. So I'm going to go under that 48.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to be a 13-3 type game or a 17-10 of that
Mm-hmm.
sort. So I think that's a good play right there. I believe we're on to the Music City Bowl. And, on paper, this could about as coin flipped as it gets. Although there was some late transfer portal movement affecting one team. So we have Maryland and Auburn. Right now, Maryland's looking 6.5 point underdog. Totals at 47. What's your feel on this one here?
This is an interesting matchup. Yeah, there's been some things going on with both teams. Auburn obviously has really struggled through much of the season. Of course, they had that kind of up game there against Bama in the Iron Bowl, but sometimes that game you kind of throw things out the window a little bit. Maryland, I think, has got a little bit more of the offensive production here. Auburn's really struggled to score throughout the season. That's been their big Achilles heel. So I think Maryland does enough to at least cover. They may win the game too, but I think they're going to at least keep this thing close. I'm gonna go with Maryland.
Right, lockstep with you there. I think they're going to get it done. They've honestly surprised. I mean, a lot of people this year in a lot of different games. Of course, the consistency wasn't there, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what separates you from a top tier team and just your 7-5 type of outfit. But I do think they have a more well rounded team, and I think they'll be able to get it done. And I do agree with you. Although now that I look, they're getting over plus 200 here on
Mm.
the money line. So I may end up dipping in that bag, but let's go ahead and go with the 6.5, and then maybe I'll do double my or
Little
maybe
double
a little
down.
extra money on the side here. Yeah, but we'll just go with the 6.5 for today. I don't want to get too crazy. My long shots haven't exactly paid me back lately, so I'll play it cool for now.
All right, we move on to a game that is going to be played at kind of an interesting time for this game. You usually think of this as a kind of a night capper type of game. The Orange Bowl, 3 o'clock kickoff for Georgia and Florida State, one we kind of alluded to earlier. And Georgia, right now, I have it laying 19. 44.5 is the overall total number. And I know there's been some issues with Florida State, not only because their starting quarterback is gone, but now the guy that was starting at the end of the year has decided he's going to transfer as well. So he's not going to play in this game. So they're down to kind of their third string guy, essentially, which is a problem. I understand that. Uh, but Georgia's going to have a number of guys that don't play in this game, too. And it's one of those for me. I think there's enough of that motivation factor for Florida State to try to prove something, and especially the way that defense was playing late in the year. If they can have those guys on the field, and they might be missing one or two, I'm sure, but if they can have some of those guys out there, I think they do enough at least to keep it close. So I'm going to take the points. It's such a big number that the motivation on their side. I'll go Florida State to cover the 19.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, especially in a game with two top six teams and what they've accomplished this year. Of course, we like you laid it out. We understand everything else that's happened since then and what the situation is. It's just incredible to see, and I think I'm for sure playing the Florida State to cover. There's no way I'm not playing that. But this is the one I might get a little crazy because if there was ever a time for Florida State to play out of their mind, this would be the day to do so. They regardless of who's suiting up for them, they have all the motivation that anybody could ever want. There's no way that you show up and lay an egg. You might get beat, but there's no way that you show up not ready to play. So I'm probably going to play that money line as well, just because. I mean, plus 750. There's no way I'm not going to take a flyer on that. That's too big of a number with two teams that are both pretty quality squads. I can't. There's no way I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, and especially the way that the season ended for Georgia, so disappointing for them in that championship game. Obviously, their motivations can be way down after winning a couple of national championships back to back, and now you're not playing in the playoffs. So, yeah, that's worth taking a shot at, I would think as well. So that's an interesting game to keep an eye on.
We got one more afternoon affair here, the Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl. We know the strong tradition and the legacy of that Barstool Sports Bowl. You can't. That's not one to overlook. So we got to pay them their homage. Wyoming and Toledo, 3.5. Wyoming's getting 3.5. Total's looking about 45.5 as of now. The book I'm checking out here. You got any inkling here which way how you think it's going to play out?
Yeah, I think obviously they're going to struggle to get the rating that they want for this one, being
Yeah.
matched up in the same time slot as the Orange Bowl. But
Hey, it's on the CW though, so there's no way that that number is going to be huge. All it's probably like a lead up of All American, the best episodes of All American, and then followed by the Barstool Sports Bowl. So
hey,
that's prime TV.
every TV in the country can get this one, baby. Uh, this is another one of those motivation games though too.
Yeah.
Daquan Finn is out for Toledo, their star quarterback. He's been the guy that makes them go. And Wyoming wants to send their man out riding that pony high. Craig Bowl, he's leaving to, I guess, be the head of the American Football Coaches Association, is what I understand he's doing.
I
So
thought he was going to be having margaritas with Kill. I thought I was
that's
making a
what he
choice.
should do.
Breaking news.
Maybe he will be. He probably have some off time with that job.
And that sounds like a better option.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm gonna go Wyoming. I think they cover easily. I think they'll win this game pretty handily.
Yeah, I'm taking Wyoming. That's been one of my squads here this year. They let me down a cup, maybe once or twice, but for the most part, they've been pretty solid and pretty reliable team in Kenna. And I think they're probably the better team as well. On top of all that,
Yeah, if things go right, both our boys' squads are gonna get it done here. West Virginia took care of business. Let's go
yeah, there you
Wyoming.
go.
Come on.
Get them good vibes going. Yeah,
Then we head to the final day of action, at least before the championship. That's New Year's Day on Monday, January 1. And we started off with, that tradition unlike any other, the Reliaquist Bowl. I think this is actually the former Outback Bowl, if that you're
uh,
kind of looking at what it would be. It's down in Tampa.
so no more bloom and onion. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, no shrimp or blooming onion. What are we
Damn,
gonna do?
jeez.
Can't have the mascot
I ain't
battle
watching that
anymore
crap,
either.
man. Yeah, yeah. Jeez.
They used to be doing like flying elbow drops on each other on the sideline and stuff. Oh man,
Uh,
yeah. What a letdown. Yeah, I don't even know what a reliaquist is, so
yeah.
you're gonna have to help me with that one. But Wisconsin taking on LSU. The Tigers are laying 10. I have it. 55.5 is the number. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff to get your day started there. If you're waking up and trying to cure that hangover, turn it on and watch some Wisconsin LSU. Definitely two very different teams here in this one, SJ.
Yeah, it's us. A couple teams that have matched up a few times here over the last several seasons. I remember, a couple years back, Wisconsin pulled off a decent size upset there at Lambeau Field, I believe is where they played that one. I don't think that's going to be the case this time, but um, as 10 again, double digits doesn't seem right in bowl games, picking that, at least being confident with, and I fully expect LSU to win. I'm just not super confident of a double digit win. So I'm going to go ahead and think they maybe shut them down a little bit and, maybe like a 21-7 type or 20, I don't know, maybe 17-13, something like that, like an ugly type win. But basically, all that to say, I'm going the unders on this one. I don't think we're gonna score a lot of points. I mean, even if they blow them out and cover that number, I can't see Wisconsin scoring more than 13 to 17 points in this game.
Yeah, that's probably a good
And
way to go. I'm
and
not.
that's on the high end too. Like I'd be
Yeah,
if they score a touchdown, I'll be like, I'll get a
yeah,
little nervous
yeah,
if they get
yeah,
up there.
yeah. If it's not three field goal attempts early in the game, then we'll start to worry. Yeah, they just don't. Their offense was just absolutely horrendous this year. It's still up in the air. It sounds like whether or not Jaden Daniels is playing in this game. They said that he still might, and that's one of those things. I guess we could just. I wanted to briefly bring up too because it's so different now. I mean, the guys that you're usually missing are the ones that are transferring. So the guys that are in the portal are the ones that aren't going to play. And even a few of those have said they will play that game before they move on, and some schools have let them do that, especially from the smaller programs. But then the guys that you kind of think, well, they're huge draft stock guys, why would they want to play? Well, we have all these insurance policies now that these guys sign up for, so sometimes they're not as scared about that anymore, and they go out there. Maybe they play a little more conservative. They're not going to take risk and dive for a couple yard third down, but they still might play. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does, and if he does, yeah, LSU is going to win this game handily. I agree with your under call, but I'm also going to go Tigers. I think they put the hurting on Wisconsin here. Even if it is just kind of like a 28-3 type of thing, I think that LSU gets it done to cover that 10 as well.
You talked about earlier, mentioned weird that the Orange Bowl wasn't at night. Here's another one, the Fiesta Bowl, playing. What do we got here? At least local time for us would be at noon.
Yeah,
So what are they? 10 a.m. and or they don't do the time change, so they might be 11 this time of
that's
year.
true.
I
Yeah.
don't. I can keep track of those states that don't do that. Honestly, I mean, I agree with them. We shouldn't have a time change, but that's a different podcast, I think. We've got Liberty and Oregon matching up in this one. 16.5 point favorite. The Ducks are. Total is 66.5. Oh, this obviously not a typical matchup here in the Fiesta Bowl. Any lean you got here? What are you looking at with this matchup?
Yeah, this is one of those games where there's been a lot of talk about Liberty and the fact that they maybe really shouldn't have been able to get in this game in the first place because it was SMU that kind of got crapped on that would have been in that spot where they actually had some tough games. Liberty hasn't really played anybody. I mean, they played a few bowl teams, but they've been smaller programs. I mean, New Mexico State was the team they played a couple of times during the season. That just didn't have a lot of tests, and obviously Oregon has been plenty tested and played a lot of solid teams. I think they're going to be missing some guys, obviously, but even if I think they're going to blow out Liberty in this game. I just don't. I mean, there'll be motivation for Liberty, sure, to try to compete with a team like that. But I think Oregon's just going to be too good. Even though that's a huge number, I would still go the way of the Ducks to be able to cover. I don't think it's going to be probably by a ton, but I think they get over that and get it done. So I'm going to go Oregon and take a shot on it.
Yeah, normally we're leery of a big number, like anybody that watches spreads and things of that sort. But I can recall 2 to 3 times this season, Oregon's won 20 plus, covered a 20+ point spread within a conference game,
Yeah.
and we played it and came out on the right side, you know, or very close to that against Washington State. I think they kind of pissed it away, but for the most part, they ended up covering that. And I think Liberty maybe can hang around for a quarter or so, and it may be interesting for maybe a half. But Oregon's just has too many more athletes, just way more explosive. You could play a 10 point game with them, and in a 4 or 5 minute span, they run off 2 or 3 touchdowns, and you kind of look at the scoreboard thinking what happened. So I think that could be the case with this game. I don't think it's going to be very close or very competitive. At least not at the finals. By the time the final buzzer sounds, it may look they may look good early on, but I think it's just a matter of time before they pull away and really blow them out.
Well, this might be the time of day where you take that little pause nap there to try to catch yourself back up again. Because if you don't want to watch that one, you can go watch a game that's going to have a whole heck of a lot less points, probably, which is the Citrus Bowl down in Orlando, the Cheez It Citrus Bowl. Iowa taking on Tennessee. Tennessee, a 6 point favorite. Uh, and again, the Hawkeyes with a beautiful 35.5 as the over under number. What are we thinking here for Brian Ferentz's swan song, SJ?
Well, I mean, if you can't fall asleep, this might put you to sleep. That's another way to look at it. And there's talk, like as far as last I saw that Tennessee quarterback isn't playing, correct? I think that's the last I saw
Yeah.
that they're
Mm-hmm.
starting a freshman. So that's kind of, I say that to say my lean is obviously because of who's playing, and then the backup quarterback, a freshman no less, starting. I'm going unders all the way. If Iowa's playing, you have to pick the unders. Otherwise, you're just, you know, you hate America, isn't that what they used to say in Iowa?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So
Love it or leave it. Yeah.
at least the Iowa fans, I won't besmirch your Iowa State folk. I'm talking about the Hawkeyes, that is. But yeah, you got to take the unders. I mean, there's no way I'm picking anything else. I don't really have a lean who's going to win either, because we've seen Tennessee lay eggs in a lot of bowl games where maybe they should have won. Seems like maybe, as far as you could get, about the most favorable matchup Iowa could get in a bowl game. Maybe where they have a chance to win. I just don't. That the only thing I can think that I have any confidence in is the unders, just because who's playing. I think it's gonna be kind of ugly.
Yeah. This will be an ugly game. Iowa, the one thing I'll give them credit for typically in postseason is they do play pretty well in their bowl games. They typically do play strong at the end of the year. Ferentz has a way of kind of getting some guys ready to go. If that number trickles down though, any at all, if you get down to that 4, and especially if it gets down to that 3 range, then I'm going to hammer the Vols because I think they're going to win probably. I would maybe even test it right now, but I'm with you. I'm going to stick with the unders. I think having that inexperience for Tennessee, and then Iowa's just inability to score at all is a problem. So I'm going to lean that way with you as well and go with the unders.
Yeah, I don't think Brad Banks is walking in the door before after pregame speech. So I don't think they're gonna have the offense. I want to do a whoa Nelly on this one, right? Is that what we're coming up here? The granddaddy of them all.
Oh,
Is that what we got
granddaddy!
here? I don't got a very good Keith Jackson, but I mean, time flies is all I can say. If anybody knows that Romo reference, so we got playoff, I guess, first game, and it does seem fitting that I guess this year it's in the Rose Bowl, being Michigan, Alabama kind of seems like where the voters decide the winners type game. Let's see, what are we getting here right now? It looks like Michigan's still getting a point and a half. The total is 44 and a half. Maybe a tough one to call, maybe not. What say you?
Yeah, the old whoa Nelly, Keith Jackson coming out of his grave to
There you
watch
go. That's
this
a little
one.
better. I don't got. Yeah, I don't got that. I don't got that. Whatever drawl he had with.
Yeah, yeah,
I
no
don't got the
kidding.
bass. I don't got the belly for the bass. So.
Guy had some of the best taglines, that's for sure.
Oh man.
You think of classic games, you think of Keith Jackson.
Well, especially that setting too, man. Like I mean, I know a lot of people give it
Yeah,
crap and say, people are like obsessed with it, but like that is like that's some place I haven't been. That's one stadium that's on top of my list. Even if I don't go to a game, obviously a game is ideal. And it doesn't have to be the Rose Bowl game; could be any UCLA game, whatever. That's one stadium I'd like to put step my feet in one time here in the next few years. That's definitely on the list.
yeah, I agree. I have heard from some folks that have been there. It's maybe outside of the stadium's not the most exciting place to be, but once you're inside, it's not too bad. And of course, it is an older stadium too. It doesn't have all the modern amenities that we all have now in these fancy places like in Arlington and what else. But
Mm.
yeah, classic place, that's for sure. You know, this is the semifinal games to me are so interesting because I think if they were flipped the other way around, it would have been maybe way different how these games play. But I just I'm having trouble just totally being sold on Michigan being able to win a game like this. They did get it done against Ohio State, and they've proven they've done that a few years in a row. But once they've gotten into this playoff setting, it seems like they just never have risen totally to the occasion. They're so one dimensional on the offensive side. I think Alabama's going to have the guys to be able to slow down that run game enough. You know, Michigan's going to get some, but they're going to be able to slow it down enough. And then it's a matter of can the Wolverines do something in the pass game to win the game? We know that Alabama can. They have gotten better at that throughout the season. You know, heck, they needed a 4th and 31 to keep the hope alive, and they did it. So I'm just gonna go. I'm going Alabama. It's probably not what everybody wants to see, probably out there, but I think that the Crimson Tide get it done.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not a big Michigan fan. Don't care for especially Harbaugh. It's not my cup of tea. That guy's kind of a little bit off putting in my mind. But I kind of think Alabama would have been better off if this game would have been played maybe a week or two if it was right after the season and not a little bit of a break. I think maybe they got hot, really hot at the end of the season, and kind of I think they're riding the wave a little bit, and that's no discounting of the quality of their team. I just think they kind of got on a heater, and if you're on one, which I'm assuming they are, I could be wrong. We'll find out here in a few days. But I think if you're on that heater, you're better off to keep playing, and a break's
Mm-hmm.
not going to do you any good, regardless of the quality of the team. 1.5. Not a huge number. I do think Michigan can cover that and win. They're going to be tested. I think it's going to be close, but I think Michigan will get it done. Wouldn't be surprised to see it either way, but I do think that breaks going to benefit Michigan more than it will Alabama.
Yeah, that's not a bad look at it. I don't discredit your analysis there. That's for sure. We
I
move.
spent a lot of time on it, so I appreciate that.
A lot of hard work went into that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The other college football playoff semifinal to cap off the day will be the Sugar Bowl down there in Nolens. 7:45 is the kickoff. Texas, a 4-point favorite right now. I have it taking on Washington. The number is pretty big at 63 and a half. What are we looking at here, SJ?
Well, I think it's gonna be a bloodbath. I really do. I think Washington's gonna embarrass them. I don't. I think they've played in a lot of big games this year. The offense is explosive. Of course, Texas has put their numbers up, from time to time, but they've also had a couple of stinkers in there. And Washington really hasn't, offensively at least. I don't think it's gonna be very close. That 4 is easy, but I want to make some money, so I'm going to take the money line plus 150 right now. I'm hoping some of these, these hook'em boys start betting some big bills on that, so I can drive that number even up and really make some money. I'm gonna wait till Saturday or Sunday to see what that number is at. I want to. That's gonna be a hammer right there. I'm gonna pop a bottle on that one. I'm gonna make some money off that game. I have a good feeling about it.
You got to wait till Mattress Mac whips out the checkbook,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. That freaking dude's gonna throw in a couple mil. Like, can you imagine? Like, I mean, I understand. Like, I'm sure he's not gonna show it outwardly how disappointed he is that he lost, but I mean, he's losing millions and just carrying on about his day.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be an interesting life.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild. I mean, he's got some math behind it because he's hedging it on the furniture side, but
Right.
it's yeah. But he has made some just outright anyways because he loves to do it now. I think he's hooked. He's got that adrenaline up when he brings that wheelbarrow inside the doors. He's ready to go. Make special plane landing occasions for him. That's for sure. But yeah, I'm with you. This is where I mean, if the roles were reversed and it was Texas playing Michigan, I'd almost feel even better about Texas beating Michigan than I do Alabama
Mm-hmm.
because Texas's run defense is really, really good. Where they struggle is against the pass. They've given up over 300 yards to a number of teams. I watched one of them in person this year in Ames.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Washington does, obviously. Washington throws the ball. Penix, he's got great receivers. Adunze is just such a talented, multifaceted guy. You can hand it off to him, throw it to him. They've got other guys on the outside that are fast. I think they put it up. I think they put up the points. I wouldn't be surprised if the number gets over either, but I'm not going to go there. I'm going to play the money line with you. I think Washington wins this game, and as we start off this playoff, that's the team I'm leaning on. I think that might take home this whole crown. So we'll see how the games play out. Maybe if that changes my mind, but I really like how the Huskies. They've done it every time they needed to. Every time they had to prove it, they did, and they played in a pretty good conference. We feel like this year.
Yeah, and it's one thing to kind of hold off an opponent, or maybe you catch a break, or a penalty goes against you or for you to kind of push you over that edge. But they've literally made the plays, and plays that aren't easy to make. So you
Mm-hmm.
got just the difficulty in the high pressure situations. I can't see it phasing them. Of all the teams left, there's no doubt that they're the most tested
Oh yeah.
over the long haul of the season.
Yeah, yeah, battle tested for sure. Those two games alone against Oregon were probably enough to get them ready for this
Yes,
moment.
I mean some teams don't play a game like that over the course of 5 years. They played two in within what, a couple months.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly. Well, it'll be a lot of fun to watch. I do think they're good matchups. It'll be fun to see how the games play out, and we'll have fun into the bowl season here. And then, however it plays, we'll find out who we got in that national championship. And of course, we'll be back with you to talk about it again. But SJ, hopefully, we're starting to line those pockets for some folks here at the end of the weekend. Ring in that new year the right way, right?
well, we need Louisville to get their crap together. But other than that, I think we're looking okay in the nightcap here. So, yeah, we've been maybe doing a little bit of screen watching, but that's what makes it fun. Just kind of always something going on. I do kind of hate that they're a little bit spread out for my liking. I understand a lot of people, still work over the holidays, don't have days off. Myself, I don't only get a couple days, but there's still, there's a will, there's a way to watch. I just wish there's a little bit more of overlap with the games, because it's not starting until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's a little bit too late for me. I want games all day, so I'm really looking forward to January 1 and just game after game after game.
Yeah, that's going to be a good day. That's a good slate, full docket for everybody to enjoy. So we appreciate you joining us again. Of course, listen, share, review, do the poll, all that good stuff there on the podcast, whether it be on Spotify, Amazon Music, or Google Podcasts. You can find it all either way, or of course, just search it up. We're going to share it for you on our socials as well. If you're a Twitter user, at SJMBets is SJ's handle. Mine is at CherokeeCP. We'll also put out the graphic for you for our picks, so you can follow along that way. Or if you would like to either play along with us or fade our picks, whatever you feel like doing, as you've learned from us throughout the year, we will respect whatever your decision is. So do that, and then of course. We'll have more on the way here for you as we head down the way. And of course, got to look good recap of what we did. So we appreciate you joining us and having some fun with us here during bowl season. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.